So we've talked about how to get your first pistol. I even bought one to show you how to do it. Actually, I bought two. And the one that I bought online to show you guys how to do that whole process just showed up. So I'm very excited about that. I even got the red dot on it already. We even talked about what to get with your first pistol, but one of those items that we didn't go into enough depth on is the ammo. We really got to go in a little deeper on buying ammunition for your pistol, because if you've already started looking around, you think, all right, great, I'm gonna get this 9mm pistol. All 9mm ammo is created the same, right? Wrong.
Right? Wrong.
It's not. In fact, there's a ton of different types of 9mm ammunition out there. So what do you need for your gun? First and most importantly, we've said this a number of times, hopefully it's fairly self-explanatory. We have a 9mm handgun here, so the ammunition we want to be buying is 9mm. Now, to make matters slightly more complex, sometimes you'll see it referred to by different names. You may just see 9mm, 9mm. You may see 9mm Luger. That's kind of a long form, old school name. Same thing though. You might see 9x19 in its numerical form, or you might even see 9mm Parabellum. Now, these are all different names for the same thing, what I have in front of me now. They'll all feed through a 9mm handgun. Now, I think it's very important we talk about the anatomy of a round or a cartridge. Those two terms are used to describe what I'm holding here right now, which is a ready-to-fire package of multiple different individual components. First off, we have the case. The case is the gold part of the round that I'm holding here right now. It's basically the house for all of the other components that go into firing your bullet. The bullet is seated at the end of the case. You can see it here. It's going to actually leave the barrel. And the way it leaves the barrel is by the striker, in our case with this particular firearm, striking the primer, which is at the back of the case. That primer is going to then ignite the powder inside of the case, which will propel that bullet down the barrel.
It's science.
The reason I say this and the reason it's so important to remember is that a lot of people refer to this entire thing as a bullet. It's okay, sometimes it happens, it's just slang, right? But if you go online or somewhere maybe in a store and people start taking you very literally and you search for or ask for 9mm bullets, you might only get literally the bullet, which really isn't gonna do you a whole lot of good unless you get into reloading, which involves a whole lot more equipment and a whole lot more complexity and all that stuff. You want 9mm rounds or cartridges that are ready to fire. Beyond just ensuring that you're searching for and buying something that's going to physically function inside of your pistol, you also wanna make sure that you're getting the right type of ammo for your application. We're gonna break it down in somewhat of a simplified manner because this can get really, really into the weeds, and we're just going to break it out into two categories: range ammo and defensive ammo. These are very different things. The biggest differentiating factor between your range ammo and your defensive ammo is going to be the bullet that's used. Your range ammo is gonna use a bullet traditionally that's just called FMJ, full metal jacket. Whereas your defensive ammo is probably gonna be using a bullet that is a jacketed hollow point, or JHP. The FMJ, also commonly referred to as ball ammunition, is gonna be your range stuff. It's cheaper to manufacture and therefore it's also gonna be cheaper for you to buy, so you can bulk up on your FMJ stock and then use it at the range. Now it's great for punching holes in paper. However, in self-defensive scenarios, let's just say it's not going to perform the way that you want a bullet to perform to stop a threat.
You see what I did there?
That's where the jacketed hollow point ammunition comes into play. Now, do realize that not all JHP ammo is created equal. There are all kinds of tests that are done on all the different kinds that are out there. Just because it says JHP doesn't mean that it's going to be at the same level as all other jacketed hollow point ammunition in terms of its effectiveness on threats. Now, here I am finding myself in another situation where we have all sorts of friends in the industry and there's all these different types that are really good. And I only have a couple of examples on the table so as not to just sit here naming types of ammo all day. So I'm gonna go through a few of these. Just note that they are not the only options. They're just a few really good ones that we've used in the past. As far as FMJ range ammunition, we've got a couple of examples on the table here. The standard style, I would say, really just a common looking bullet, 9mm, is 115 grain. I'm gonna talk about that grain weight designation here in just a little bit. This is Federal American Eagle 9mm, 115 grain bullet. And this is stuff that our instructors use all the time on the range when they're training. It's FMJ. Another one on the table here as far as your range ammo is this Federal Syntex stuff. Now, again, I'm gonna go into the grain weight here in a second. This is a 150 grain bullet, so it is heavier weight bullet than the 115 grain. The guys here shoot this all the time, both for training purposes, but then also for competition. And that's something we could go into further in another video later down the line. If you start considering getting into competitive shooting of some sort, there may be different ammo considerations. This one's kind of unique. It actually has a synthetic jacket around the bullet, but we still put it in the same category in terms of use as FMJ rounds. The last one I have here on the table, just to show you kind of a different example, is this Blazer 115 grain aluminum case ammo. Now, I actually bought this a while back when ammo was pretty hard to come by, and it was also getting pretty expensive. In this case, the aluminum case ammo was a little bit cheaper than the brass case stuff, and it was just easier to find. So I got this, I've used it, and it's been pretty reliable. I haven't had any issues with it, so that's just another example of something you might see. Now I've got one example here on the table as far as jacketed hollow point goes. That's not because there is only one that's good out there on the market. It's actually just the one that I had readily accessible when I was just about to jump in the video studio here. And this is Spear Gold Dot. Now you can see it comes in a smaller box. Generally, you're gonna buy this in smaller quantities, so they serve it up in boxes of 20 rather than boxes of 50 like I was holding up there. Now this is a very well-known and reputable self-defense type of ammo. It's also used in duty scenarios too, like professional end users. A couple of other examples that are really, really well known for being reliable and also good at stopping threats would be Federal HST, Hornady Critical Duty or Critical Defense. So those are a few options that you can look into. Now I told you I'd talk a little bit about the grain weight. That's another specification you're going to see on the ammo that you're purchasing. Grain weight refers to the weight of the bullet. Remember, we're not talking about the cartridge in its entirety, just the bullet that's leaving the barrel. Now, obviously, if you have a lower grain weight, it's going to be a lighter weight bullet. If you have a higher grain weight, it's going to be a higher weight bullet. Grains are a unit of measure for weight. It's important to remember because a lot of times people are aware of the fact that there is gunpowder within the case behind the bullet in your cartridge, and they think that somehow the grains is related to how many granules or kernels of powder are actually in the case. It has nothing to do with the powder, it has everything to do with the weight of the bullet.
That's good to know.
Now, without going really far into the weeds, the thing that you need to realize is that 9mm bullets all need to fit down the bore of your barrel. So they can't get heavier by getting wider, because then they wouldn't fit down the barrel anymore. Generally speaking, they get heavier by getting a little bit longer. So all else similar, a heavier weight bullet will actually be longer. It'll maybe seat down further inside the case than a lighter weight bullet. If it does that, it may eat up a bit more of the capacity to put gunpowder inside the case. Not to mention, it's also just a heavier weight bullet. So generally speaking, heavier weight bullets move more slowly than the lighter weight bullets. So the lighter weight bullets are a bit more zippy, heavier weight bullets a little bit slower. Now, some of the interesting things with grain weights, and it's part of the reason I brought it up, and that whole lightweight bullet tends to be a little bit zippier, is actually you may feel that. So a lighter weight bullet, while being lighter weight, may actually cause the gun in its recoil impulse to be a bit snappier. Whereas the heavier grain weight bullets, you may feel kind of a smoother, slower recoil impulse that's a little bit easier to shoot and a little bit easier to keep the gun more flat while shooting. As you're looking around, chances are you're gonna see that there is a pretty wide spectrum of grain weights available for the 9mm cartridge. For your training purposes, it should be easy enough to stick within the 115 grain to 124 grain spectrum. This Federal Syntex stuff at 115 grains, that's a heavy weight 4 caliber 9mm bullet, and it's honestly kind of shocking that it shoots as reliably out of pretty much everything as it does, because that's not always the case with really heavy for caliber bullets. I should also mention, and I apologize if now I've gotten you really wrapped up in the grain weight thing. It's not something you should super worry about for your first firearm, but it's just something to at least be aware of. The grain weights I'm mentioning here for these 9mm bullets, what's light, what's heavy, doesn't apply to other cartridges. So if we're talking about a standard cartridge you shoot out of your hunting rifle, like a 308, 150 grains might be really lightweight. In fact, it is for that particular caliber. And then as we look at other calibers, they all have their different spectrums of what's light and what's heavy for that particular caliber. So I'm only referring to 9mm right now. Now that we're out of the woods of the whole grain weight thing, let's go back to the buying process. How are you gonna buy this ammo? Well, first off, you're gonna go into a store or purchase it online. Either of those methods is perfectly fine. You can have it shipped to your house. You don't need to go through an FFL for your ammunition. You may need to provide some form of proof of your age because pistol ammo, generally speaking, at most stores, they're gonna ask to make sure that you're over 21 years of age. Also be aware of the fact that your life is going to be a lot easier on the range if you buy the same brand, the same type of ammo in some form of bulk. Not all 115 grain 9mm ammunition is even created the same. Just when you thought, okay, now I can finally scale it down to some level where I know where I'm at. Even changing brands can start to change things like how the gun functions, how your groups appear on paper, where your zero is. So making sure that you're getting all the same exact type of ammo will really ensure the maximum amount of consistency on the range. If you are indeed new to guns, then you're probably thinking to yourself, well, okay, how much am I gonna buy? You've maybe heard people talk about buying rounds in the thousands. You hear 1,000 rounds of 9mm and you're thinking, gee whiz, that's a lot of ammo. I'm never gonna go through that much.
Wow, that's a lot.
Well, you may actually go through that much ammo. You'd be surprised how much ammo you go through in a typical range session with a few good drills that you're running to get better. And it's never a bad idea to have extra rounds on hand should you want to hit the range whenever you want. You don't have to go to the store first or place an order and try and time up the shipping with your range trip. Just nice to have extra ammo on hand. I've got a few boxes here that I actually had delivered to me when I purchased some ammo in bulk. And I just want to show you, it's going to be surprising when you see. This is a box of ammo that 200 rounds came in of defensive ammo. It takes up literally the same amount of space on the table in terms of footprint as the gun sitting on the table does. I'm guessing maybe that's a little bit smaller than you were anticipating. How about 1,000 rounds? 1,000 rounds of 9mm ammo shows up on your doorstep that you ordered online in bulk. This is all that's going to appear. And this, I think, usually surprises people the most when they see that it's really not gonna take up that much room in your house. No one's gonna look at you like, whoa, you've gone completely mad, because this is just a regular, kind of small box. So there you have it, everyone. That's the process of buying ammo for your first pistol. It's fairly simple. Just remember, you've got range ammo, you've got defensive ammo. They are different. Buy from a reputable manufacturer. Don't buy just bullets. Remember that, folks. And buy it in some level of quantity so you have good consistency and you always have ammo on hand when you want to hit the range. As usual, everybody, we want to make sure that this is a zero assumption series of videos. Now, it's highly possible I've used a term or I've explained something in this video that didn't fully make sense to those of you out there who are truly brand new to guns. So please, by all means, if that happened, let me know about it in the comments below so you can keep me honest. I'm doing my best to keep myself honest here, but that's why we love you guys watching these videos. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one.
Think about this. What is the most exciting thing that can happen on TV or in movies or in real life? Somebody has a gun.